Hello, I'm Stella Montejo, and these are today's news. We start today by taking you back to the Middle East, where stories are developing rapidly. Telemundo's very own Victoria Cuervo is reporting. Victoria?
Thank you, Stella. In what has been a flurry of military and diplomatic activity, Europe's last imperial powers have badly misplayed their hands. In a matter of hours, two entire airborne divisions, one British, one French, surrendered to Egyptian forces. Facing overwhelming odds with an army of 250,000 bearing down on them, the British surrendered after a brief firefight in which 11 Britons were killed and 68 injured. In the case of the French, after a soldier sprained his knee, the entire unit surrendered unconditionally. Egyptian casualties could not be independently confirmed.
And what of the Israeli troops who were holding Gaza?
International observers have seen a large-scale Israeli attack against Egyptian fortifications near Mount Sinai. As the bulk of the Egyptian army traveled west to the Suez Canal, the Israelis are following in hot pursuit. As Egyptian forces consolidate on the eastern bank of the Suez, Israeli forces are rapidly moving west through the Sinai.
In your estimation, is the Egyptian numerical superiority insurmountable for the IDF?
It's hard to say, Stella. While the Israeli forces are outnumbered by a margin of almost 2 to 1, superior aircraft and heightened positions on Mount Sinai provide for a very menacing terrain for any advancing army.
One more question. Do you see any end to this in sight?
Because of the addition of European prisoners of war to the well-established animus between the Egyptians and the Israelis, any peace deal will require tremendous maneuverability on all sides. Back to you, Stella.
Moving to Eastern Europe for fear of a crackdown on the free press, correspondent Vicente Flowers has left Budapest, Hungary for Telemundo's Mexico City headquarters. Our sources in Budapest have told Telemundo that the body of Prime Minister Nagy washed up 20 miles downstream of the shores of the Danube River. Soviet officials claimed that Nagy's cause of death was suicide. General Paul Matador was executed via firing squad in his role in the country's rebellion. The curfew remains in effect for all major cities. A nationwide crackdown against intellectuals and insufficiently patriotic Politburo members has commenced, numerous disappearances confirmed by our sources on the ground. Newly installed Prime Minister János Kadar claimed in his first speech to the nation that it was time to restore Hungary's commitment to the Warsaw Pact and the communist ideal. Turning to Cuba, Telemundo has received confirmed reports that Cuban Generalissimo Fulgencio Batista has been assassinated as the anti-communist Directorio Revolucionario Estudiantil, or DRE, seized upon the vulnerability of Batista's palace guard, while most of the military forces were in the east of the country searching for the Llano revolutionary group now headed by Fidel Castro. While the DRE was able to assassinate Batista, security forces cut down or arrested all of the over 200 members of the movement. Leaderless, the Cuban military has retreated to Havana. Fidel Castro, blaming both Batista and anti-communists for the void that has gripped the country, has assumed the title El Presidente, and with his Llano companions is riding for Havana. They have encountered no resistance whatsoever on the way. The citizenry in the capital have come out on the streets to cheer the death of Fulgencio Batista, and his corpse was dragged through the streets all the way to the former leader's own private residence, where we were able to attain this footage. We warn our viewers that this footage is graphic. You've heard it from the reporters in the field. Now let's turn to diplomatic activity at the United Nations. Frantic diplomatic efforts since the British and French incursion into Egyptian territory yielded no significant progress. With global politics engulfed in chaos, the Security Council have found themselves at odds. Over the past 2 weeks, both the British and the French have consistently defended Israeli actions in the Sinai Peninsula. After failed negotiations between Egypt and the United Kingdom, the Council was faced with the prospect of an almost certain veto by the United Kingdom if they had attempted an internationally brokered de-escalation agreement. In the meantime, the United States and Yugoslavia were vocally skeptical of European action in the region. The United States criticized the Israeli delegations for not being more accommodating of Egyptian sovereignty concerns. While discussions about the fate of the former Hungarian government had reached a fever pitch on several occasions over the course of a few weeks, the inevitable inability to act in the face of a Soviet veto had prevented the body from ever seriously considering a solution, And while a majority of states on the Council had expressed concern about a revolution on the island, Cuba consistently affirmed its ability to quell any hint of a rebellion, thereby preventing any international intervention. That's all for now. I'm Stella Montejo, signing off.